So Critical Role have just announced some pretty major news in the tabletop RPG space. For the last year now, Critical Role has been teasing a release of their own unique tabletop RPG system, a system developed by Matt Mercer, as well as I imagine, a host of other tabletop RPG specialists. Once again, this new RPG, Daggerheart, was teased on Critical Role's show State of the Press, where they go over a number of the projects that they are working on through their publishing company, Darrington Press. Now, while we didn't get a ton of new information about Daggerheart, we did learn that this will be previewed at Gen Con 2023, which is some absolutely amazing news, especially considering this is all in light of the massive OGL Wizards of the Coast D&D Hasbro drama that took place throughout the month of January this year. I did an entire fun kind of deep dive into the insanity that was those weeks of the OGL drama. Click the eye above if you want to go see that video. Okay, so right now you might be asking yourself, Fraud, why should we care about a Critical Role table RPG system that hasn't even been fully released yet? We know basically nothing about it, just that it's going to be a thing and that we're going to see a preview of it sometime later this year. Well, you see, the thing is, in light of the whole OGL fiasco, the overreach that Hasbro's and Wizards of the Coast did on just the overall licensing of Dungeons & Dragons, thus affecting all of the ecosystem of Dungeons & Dragons, people, well, are been a bit of a panic in the RPG space. People are desperately crying out for a new RPG, a competitor to Dungeons & Dragons, along with Pathfinder as well as Call of Cthulhu. Even though Call of Cthulhu is probably a little less of a competitor to Dungeons & Dragons, there really is none. Wizards have a chokehold on this tabletop RPG space, even after the insanity that was the OGL drama. So many people just seem to have forgotten about it, even though it was only a couple months ago, and are right back into buying Wizards Hasbro products, which is perfectly fine. However, though, those in the space, especially those with companies or jobs in the tabletop RPG space, saw the potential scariness that happened with the D&D OGL drama, and so right now it seems like a lot of people out there are crying out for some kind of D&D alternative. And what better people to create a D&D alternative than probably the darlings of the D&D space, essentially Matt Mercer. Can you just imagine a fully fledged tabletop RPG system designed by Matt Mercer, arguably one of the best DMs in the world, what many people view as the best DM in the world, designed for long-term fantasy storytelling, basically what Critical Role does best. Now, we have no idea if it's going to be any good or not, but let's just hypothetically assume that it will be good. Imagine how many people that this RPG system could suck away from D&D and Wizards. In all honesty, the tabletop RPG space, Dungeons & Dragons, the fantasy tabletop RPG space, desperately needs competition. Competition breeds good content, and right now Wizards doesn't have a lot of competition, and in my opinion this has really affected a lot of the quality of their content, especially over the last few years. Now, this is just my opinion at the end of the day, but I'm not alone in thinking this. Honestly, some of the best content that Wizards put out over the last couple of years was Matt Mercer's Tal'Dore's campaign guides. It's Matt Mercer, this is my opinion now, it's Matt Mercer's settings, his campaign settings. Frankly, we all know that 5e has its limits. While it has done its job and brought a massive amount of people into the tabletop RPG space and Dungeons & Dragons, it very much has its shortcomings, especially if you've played it for as long as it's been out. People, I think, are just tired of 5e and they want something different. Even Matt Mercer and plenty other professional DMs, this is the reason why they constantly homebrew and constantly make additions to the rules. It's because they're trying their best to make 5e, well, just more fun. And I'm not gonna lie here, the line with rich options for characters' progress, whatever that exactly means, does have me excited. Knowing Matt Mercer, I can already think of a number of changes, such as changes to combat, changes to death and resurrection, that we will most likely be seeing in his new tabletop RPG system. It's interesting because arguably the Critical Role team has probably the most influence in the Dungeons & Dragons space. They very easily can shift a lot of the opinion of the broad Dungeons & Dragons audience, hence why it was such a big deal when the Critical Role team came out against Wizards. Now, obviously, they're taking D&D Beyonds and Wizards sponsorships again. I don't really blame them for that. It's a lot of money. It's kind of hard to turn down. And when they're the biggest show in town, you necessarily kind of have to work with them to get your stuff across. But the releasing of their own tabletop RPG game through their own press company, that could be something very big. And it could definitely shake this scene up a lot, obviously assuming that it's actually good. As well, it makes you wonder, what if Campaign 4 could be under Daggerheart? Would Critical Role actually switch off of Dungeons & Dragons, switch away from this kind of partnership with Wizards of the Coast in favor of promoting their own gaming system? It's definitely something interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if this happens. At the very least, we're going to see Daggerheart one-shots in the future of Critical Role, but don't be surprised if in the next few years, Critical Role's campaign completely shifts away from Dungeons & Dragons, something that would be absolutely insane, absolutely cataclysmic for the space, I think. Personally, I think what they're doing here has the potential to really help out the Dungeons & Dragons tabletop space just overall. I think a lot of people felt betrayed after the OGL fiasco, the OGL debacle. A lot of people aren't going to touch Dungeons & Dragons again, and if they do, they're very reluctant to do so. And I think now is as good of a time as ever to come out with a big alternative to Dungeons & Dragons. And honestly, I can't really think of anyone better to do it besides Matt Mercer. God, I hope he brings Brennan in on this project, because I would love to have Brennan Lee Mulligan's mind working with Matt Mercer to create a tabletop system. It would just be absolutely epic. But irregardless, Matt knows what he's doing. This guy knows what he wants out of a tabletop RPG system for long-term fantasy storytelling specifically. And I have complete faith that he's going to put out a product that at the very least will be interesting, and it will be new, and it will be unique. And personally, I'm just excited for some advancement, for some change, for some spice of life in this space. As always, guys, this video is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree with it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're curious about my overall larger thoughts on the OGL, make sure you click that eye above and go check out our full breakdown of the video, how this billion-dollar company lost to a group of angry Dungeons & Dragons nerds. As always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, adieu.
Wasn't supposed to happen, so much talk around us. We became numb to the yapping. It was like 05, got my license to drive. Picked you up in my pop's car, went for a ride. Couldn't no one tell us nothing. That night was ours. All the stars aligned, and you were so damn fine. Yeah, it was young love, young hearts were so pure. We trust love is so.